Hi everyone. In today's video, I'd like to talk about common narcissistic behaviours. We all know narcissists are grandiose, entitled, critical, they go into rages, they do silent treatment. But what are their common day-to-day behaviours? How are they to live with? What kind of things do they get up to? Let's have a look. So everyone's different, but as a rule, narcissistic parents do not respect the physical, psychological or emotional privacy or boundaries of their children. They may read their diaries and search their rooms. They will not respect their children's secrets and privacy and will often embarrass their children by disclosing private information to others. They often shame their children for their normal bodily functions. When their children reach their teenage years, they may become highly jealous and critical. So this especially happens with narcissistic mothers and their daughters as they go through puberty. This seems to be a bit of a flashpoint for them, and they're triggered into lots of critical behaviours and they become extremely jealous. They will often abandon their children. So many narcissistic parents will go off with another partner. They will throw their children out of the house when their children are quite a young age, maybe 15, 16, 17, something like that. So for the child, there's not much security there. So there's always that underlying rule of it's my way or the highway that a narcissist lives by. And the children kind of know if they don't go along with what they're expected to go along with, then they probably will be abandoned. So there's always that abandonment fear for children of narcissists. And this abandonment fear is very real because it does happen. They will treat their children differently. Favoured children are known as golden children, and unfavoured children are known as scapegoats. They will spend little money or time on scapegoat children whilst lavishing gifts on the golden children. They will continually devalue their scapegoat children, and narcissistic parents will play their children against each other with a technique known as triangulation, which is essentially a divide and rule tactic. And the scapegoat, in essence, becomes like a dumping ground where they project all their negative emotions about themselves, and the shame that they're carrying, they project onto their child so they don't feel it personally. Then they can blame the child for any bad feelings that they have. So it's your fault that I feel like this, or it's your fault this family is not happy. It's your fault I'm not happy. If you were different, everything would be okay. So this will become the scapegoat's child's core belief. There'll be a lot of self-blame there. There'll be low self-worth, low self-esteem, and they can feel responsible for the other people in the family. So if it wasn't for me, we'd all be happy, or they'd be happy, and overly responsible for their own feelings and for the narcissistic parents' feelings as well. When their children become adults, they may have flirtations or more with their children's partners. That can happen. They can be highly competitive and may compete with their children. This means their children may often underachieve or be mediocre in life to deflect the intense competitiveness and jealousy of a narcissistic parent. So if you do well, then there'll be criticism, judgment, silent treatments, that kind of thing, because they don't handle that well. So subconsciously, more often than not, we'll be underachieving so that we are mediocre. So that intense criticism and jealousy doesn't happen, because at the end of the day, the fear underlying all of this is of abandonment. So if the narcissistic parent is upset, I'm going to be abandoned, is the thought that is there underlying all of this. They will manipulate others in order to meet their needs. Much of what they say or do has an ulterior motive. So this often leads their children to be trying to read the subtext all the time. They can't take anything at face value. Nothing means what it seems to mean. So this can result in suspicion, paranoia, and second guessing what the motive of the narcissistic parent may be. And this can be disconcerting because you can't trust what's presented to you at face value. And many children of narcissists do have trust issues. So they're feeling that they can't trust anyone, or the feeling that they're going to be betrayed in some way. They will rarely, if ever, apologise, as they view themselves as always correct. Yeah, so they're in that headspace where they're idealising themselves. I'm right, everyone else is wrong, I'm a victim, and they rarely apologise to anyone. They might do a sarcastic apology. They might apologise if they need to get you back into the fold for some reason, or they feel they're losing control of you in some way and that doesn't suit them at that time. But generally, as a rule, you can know a narcissist for 20, 30, 40 years and you'll never hear them say sorry about anything. So logically, this isn't possible, is it? It's not possible for somebody to be correct all the time for that length of time without making any kind of mistake whatsoever. They have a strong need to control people and events around them. They use the emotionally abusive punishments of the silent treatment and narcissistic rage. So this is really emotionally abusive. To ignore an adult or rage at an adult is bad enough, but then to ignore a child and be raging at a child is really awful, really emotionally abusive. They will generally blame others for everything that they feel has gone wrong. So they don't take personal responsibility. They're the victim and everything's everyone else's fault. They generally refuse to take personal responsibility for their behaviour and for the consequences of their actions. Yeah, so let's say a husband has an affair with someone and then he'll blame the wife for being herself. You know, it's your fault because you ignored me that day, or you're not attentive enough to me, or your cooking's terrible. So they have an affair, but it's your fault that they've had an affair. And yeah, if you'd been different, that wouldn't have happened. So the way they narrate every story to themselves is that they're the innocent victim of others and nothing's their fault. They will often use shame and fear to control others. They do not value the feelings and opinions of other people, and they will use a technique known as gaslighting to control others. So most people have heard of gaslighting. So it's an insidious form of manipulation and psychological control. Victims of gaslighting are deliberately and systematically fed false information that leads them to question what they know to be true, often about themselves. They may end up doubting their memory, their perception, and even their sanity. People with NPD have a tendency to present one face to their victims and another to the rest of the world. This leads their victims to assume that if they ask for help or speak out, they will not be believed. Gaslighters tend to typically repeat the tactics across several relationships, and this involves a pattern of abusive behaviours with the intent not just to influence someone, but to control them. So they want to control people, they want to influence people into thinking what they want them to think, behaving how they want them to behave, doing what they want them to do. As I talk about in my video, why narcissists abuse people, it's because they want to control their environment as much as possible. So those are some common behaviours of narcissists that you might be familiar with. I hope the information in this video was useful in some way, and take care. Bye.